Go ahead and enter them before I get started.
Okay.
Okay, can you all see my screen for the presentation?
Yes, I can see it.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you, Debbie. I am excited to present a little bit about Day of the Dead or Dia de los Muertos. Um, so today's presentation will be split into two. So I will start with the presentation, and then Kathy will go ahead and show us a little bit more about sugar skulls. So let's go ahead and get started. So as a quick overview, I will be sharing 5 facts about Day of the Dead. So we'll be learning how it is not the same as Halloween. And I think a lot of people think that Day of the Day is the same as Halloween, but it's not. It's actually a different holiday. We're going to learn where it started. So it originated in Mexico and Central America. And contrary to, I think, popular belief, it is not about death. It's actually a celebration of life. And then we're going to learn a little bit about the altar, the components that are in the altar. I don't know if you've seen any of them before, but I will be showing some pictures. And then we're going to go over the flowers, the butterflies, and the skulls, and how there's a lot of symbolism in Day of the Dead. So the first point is that it's not the same as Halloween. So even though Halloween is celebrated on October 31st, Day of the Dead is celebrated on November 1st and November 2nd. So it's not that we're celebrating, it's not that some communities celebrate just Halloween or just Day of the Dead. These communities actually celebrate all 3 days, right? So they have Halloween on the 31st, Day of the Dead on the 1st and the 2nd. And so on the first, the symbolism on the first is that, let me see here. So many believe that the gates of heaven are open on the 31st, and that the spirit of all deceased children are allowed to reunite with their families on the first. And then the second, the belief are that the spirits of the adults come down to enjoy the festivities that are prepared for them. So that is interesting. The second point is that it originated in Mexico and Central America. So um, indigenous groups like the Aztec, the Maya, and the Toltec had specific times when they commemorated their loved ones who had passed away. Certain months were dedicated to remembering the departed, and based on whether the deceased was an adult and the child. And after the arrival of the Spanish, this ritual commemorating the dead was intertwined with 2 Spanish holidays, which is All Saints Day, which is celebrated on November 1st, and All Souls Day, which is celebrated on November 2nd. And like I said before, Day of the Dead is celebrated on the 1st as a day to remember the children who have passed away, and the 2nd as a day to honor the adults that have passed away. Day of the Dead is celebrated in Mexico, Central America, and a lot of Latino communities in the United States. What's interesting is we're seeing a lot of companies have started to advertise Day of the Dead, which is kind of new. And I've seen that probably in the last 2 or 3 years. I was scrolling on Instagram the other day, and I saw how Walmart had specific ads targeting and showing Day of the Dead altars. Companies like Nike as well are coming out with like shoes that have Day of the Dead themes, and so it sort of started to become a new holiday to be celebrated here in the United States. All right, so the third point is that it's a celebration of life, not death. So ancient Mesoamericans believed that death was part of the journey of life. Rather than death ending life, they believed that the new life came from death. And this cycle is often associated with the cyclical nature of agriculture, whereby crops grow from the ground where the last crop lies buried. So it's interesting to see that perspective and how Day of the Dead sort of started with these ancient traditions from Mesoamericans. Okay, and this is probably what most of you have seen, which is an altar, right? So the ofrenda, or the altar, is the most recognized symbol of Day of the Dead. This temporary altar is a way for families to honor their loved ones. And the belief is that they provide a way for them to find their journey, and to have a good experience as they're going through that journey. So most of the times on the altar, you're going to see that they place pictures. So it's going to have pictures, and sometimes it's going to have items that belong to the deceased, to serve as a reminder of their lives. And every altar includes 4 elements, and the elements are water, wind, earth, and fire. So water, typically how you will see water is that they will leave a pitcher of water. Oh, I'm not sure if someone has a question or if someone just joined.
Someone just joined.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, so what you will see at an altar is sometimes you will see a pitcher with water, and that is so that the water can quench their thirst as they're traveling and making their way back to Earth. The other part is the wind, and the wind is symbolized with the paper. So the name of the paper is called Papel Picado in Spanish, and you'll see these traditional paper banners, and you'll see it right here in this picture. So you're gonna see the purple paper in the back, and you're gonna see the blue paper right there, and you're gonna see the purple right there, and then orange. And so you're gonna see these paper that's supposed to symbolize the wind. The earth is represented by food. So typically what you're going to see at an altar is bread. So you're always going to see bread at these altars. I was watching a documentary in preparation for this, and there are some bakeries in California that make a bread that is just specific for Day of the Dead. Like, you won't be able to find this type of bread at any other time during the year, just around November. And then the last one is the fire. So the fire is represented by the candles. So you're going to see the candles right there. And these are supposed to represent cardinal directions so that the spirits can find their way to the altar. So on the afternoon of September or November 2nd, the festivities are taken to the cemetery, and that's where people go and clean the tombs, and they play cards and listen to music, and think about their loved ones. Kathy asked me before we got started how it was for me as a child. So I grew up in El Salvador, and even though our celebrations are just a little bit different from what you would call like the Mexican celebration, I still remember going to the cemetery as a kid, and um, it was like a food festival. There were just many vendors, and we would sit around the tombs of like my great grandparents and talk about them, and my grandma would teach me about her family and whatnot. So next, and the last point, is the flowers, the butterflies, and skulls. So what you will also see in many of the altars is a specific flower, and the traditional name is cempasúchil, which we just call them marigolds. So the marigold is a flower that's native to Mexico, and it's often placed on altars and around the graves. So they have a really strong scent, and with the vibrant colors, the petals are used to make a path that leads the spirit from the cemetery to their family's homes. And so you're going to see marigolds. And let me go back one slide. And you see them right here, right? So you see the marigolds right there. They're the orange flowers. The next is butterflies. So monarch butterflies are believed to hold the spirits of the departed. And so this belief stems from the fact that the first monarch butterflies arrive in Mexico for the winter on November 1st, which coincides with the Day of the Dead. So that is really interesting. And then the third one is calaveras de azúcar, which means sugar skulls. So along with toys, the sugar skulls are mainly for the children, for those children that have passed away. And some people don't like to see skulls at the altars, but it's not used or is not seen as like a morbid symbol, but rather as a whimsical reminder um, of the cyclicality of life and how they are brightly decorated to appeal children. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that Day of the Dead is a really expensive holiday for those families that celebrate it. So while I was researching, I learned that some families can spend over 2 months of their income to honor their dead relatives. So they believe that the happy spirits will provide protection, good luck, and wisdom to all of their families. And so they spend a lot of money paying for the bread, for the paper, for all the decorations. And going back to what I was talking about, how some US companies are starting to realize how much money spent. Like companies like Walmart are starting to advertise so that you can do your Day of the Dead shopping at Walmart. And next, here we go a little bit more about the sugar skull tradition. So the sugar skull tradition was brought to the New World by Italian missionaries in the 17th century. The first church to mention sugar art was Palermo, and it was during Easter time when little sugar lambs and angels were made to adorn the side altars of the Catholic Church. Now, the reason why there's sugar skulls is because in Mexico, sugar is really abundant. And so it was easy, it was like an easy material for them to start decorating. Now, like I said, they started with clay molded sugar figures of angels, sheep, and then they sort of transitioned to sugar skulls in the 18th century. And the sugar skulls represent a departed soul. Sometimes they would put the name of the deceased on the forehead of the sugar skull. Nowadays, it's more used as a way to show art, right? So now the sugar skull reflects the art style and big happy smiles, colorful icing, and different adornments that you can put on top of them. Sugar skulls can be labor intensive, and typically now they're made in small batches in the home of sugar skull makers. Although, as we will be learning from Kathy, this is something that you can do at home and decorate it however you want. They used to be primarily made by, someone is joined, by artisans that dedicated their time just to fabricate sugar skulls. However, now most people are able to make them at home instead of having to buy them from someone that was specifically like a sugar skull maker. So this is just an example of how ARP has celebrated Day of the Dead before. So this is a picture of, this was back in 2018. So ARP partnered with an artist in the city of Chicago. And so they were able to see, this is their train system there. And so you're able to see those marigold flowers that we were talking about. So you're gonna see the marigold flowers painted on the ceiling of the train and on the top. And then here it is, here's a different view of that train. So they painted the inside of the trains and on the outside as well. So you're able to see the skulls and the decoration and the marigold flowers on the outside of the trains. Here is an altar that was built by some ARP volunteers in California. So this was back in 2017. And so you're going to see the paper again that represents the wind. You're going to see all those color papers. You're going to see the candles. I'm pretty sure there is some bread back there and some water. And so this is really sort of a creative process for those that want to take on building an altar. And you can really build it however you want, as long as it has those elements that we talked about. And that is my presentation on Day of the Dead. So I hope I was able to share a little bit about the traditions of Day of the Dead, and maybe why you'll see some symbols like the flowers and the sugar skulls. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or I can answer them. Otherwise, we can go ahead and go with Kathy. She'll be sharing more about making sugar skulls. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo. That was wonderful. Okay, Kathy. Kathy, as most of you know, is our AARP. She's the head of our NKA. She is a state AARP person, and she loves to cook. She loves to make bread. She loves to cook. So she's going to teach us how to make sugar skulls.
Great. Well, thank you, Debbie, and thank you, Eduardo. A very informative presentation that I think really complements what you all will learn today about how to make sugar skulls, and to realize that they are an affordable thing you can do. And it definitely is a way to harness your creativity. And if you have grandchildren, it's a really fun activity to do with children or grandchildren, because it's just this wonderful, fun process. So I'm going to, the lighting is a little bit crazy in my kitchen, so I hope you can see what I'm going to do, but this is what you're going to learn how to make today, are these sugar skulls that you can literally keep for a lifetime. So I hope you can see those. I'm going to decorate this one, and I'm going to show you, and it will come, believe me, it'll come to life, the color, and then I will show you how to make them and how to make the decorative icing. So kind of as Eduardo was talking about, you know, in Mexico, you know, these can be real traditional folk art, but of course now there's with the plastic mold or the molds, we can do them at home, and these skulls will last years. I mean, like decades. They do not mold, and all the ingredients are natural. You don't need any kind of artificial ingredient, but they still are not going to mold. I remember growing up, it wasn't the sugar skulls, but my mother would make these Easter bunnies out of sugar and all the decorative icing. And I remember we still have them, actually. They stick around for decades. So the recipe today, got a lot of stuff in the kitchen to try to get this to work. Let's put these right here. So the recipe to make sugar skulls at home is, of course, sugar. And then you'll need something called meringue powder. And I'll show this to you. You can get this online. I've never used it before. It really smells delicious. Oh, sorry. Let me get this out of the way. I hope you all, I don't know if you can see that. No, it's okay. So it's meringue powder. What's in meringue powder is sugar, dried egg whites, cream of tartar, cornstarch, and vanilla flavoring, and a few other interesting things. But traditionally they used egg whites, but I think this meringue powder makes things really much easier. Time when you don't need to spend a fortune on your sugar, you know, because you're not going to be eating these, even though I guess you could eat them. They're really not intended to be consumed. So what we're going to do, and I will share the recipe with everybody. This will make 2 sugar skulls. So the sugar skulls will be like two cups of sugar, usually in each mold. And then, so what I did is I added 2 cups of sugar and 2 teaspoons of that meringue powder, and then you really incorporate that together. And this is it's pretty precise. So I would recommend that you really do measure it. If anyone's ever seen me teach before, I'm always like, oh, let's kind of wing it. But in this case, I would recommend really measuring it. So I have 2 teaspoons of meringue powder, 2 cups of sugar, and then I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of room temperature water in here and just kind of sprinkle that around. And it's hard to believe that 2 teaspoons is going to be enough water, but it is. And so we're going to mix that up. until it forms like, it's going to feel like wet sand. So it's just this lovely feeling. And because there's vanilla in the meringue powder, this just really smells delicious. The vanilla really comes through. Okay, so I'm going to test this. And I'm trying to get all the clumps out, but I'll start feeling it to see if it's the right texture. I don't know if you, sorry, you cannot, it's just so hard to see this. So let me feel this. And like a good test is like if it clumps. So I don't know if this might need a little bit more water. It should clump. So I'm sort of wondering if I need just a little bit more water. Probably, I mean, I probably put like 2 drops of water. Okay. So I think that should be good. Okay, so these, you need to get your sugar skull mold, which looks like this, and has a front and a back to it. And the way you're going to make it is you're going to firmly pack it. I don't know if you can see that. You firmly pack that in, and you really need to pay attention to the chins and the eye sockets and the nose. So like really pack that in as hard as you can. See if you can see that. And then kind of shake off the excess. And then using some sort of flat tool, just scrape off the excess. Let's a little bit more. Scrape off the excess. And I'm going to check to make sure it's firmly packed. And then you take cardboard or some other type of, something that's firm that will hold it. And it should, and if it releases and doesn't fall apart, that means you put enough water in. And this looks absolutely perfect. I have really good definition. I know it's hard to see with this light, but that's what my sugar skull is going to look like. If I were to touch it right now, it would definitely crumble and fall apart. So that needs to dry like 5 to 6 hours, or preferably overnight. And so I'm going to show you how to make the back of the skull. So yeah, the 2 cups, so 2 cups of the sugar will make 1 full sugar skull. Like almost perfect amount. Okay, so I'm really shoving that in, packing that in. And then I'm going to brush off the excess, scrape it so I have a nice smooth surface. And then just invert it. And there you go. So everyone can do that at home. It is so easy to make these. And then like little bits of tips of tricks. So if you can't get it out of the mold, that means you have way too much water in there. And so what you'll need to do is, of course, add a little bit more sugar. And then if it's way too dry, like as soon as you take it out, it just starts crumbling. Then you would need to add just like, we're talking a drop of water. So that's kind of some tools of the trade for tips of the trade. But you'll end up having beautiful, perfect sugar skulls. So, do you have any questions about those? Okay, so after it's dried overnight, you're going to have these very firm sugar skulls, but we're going to have to put these together. So it'll make an actual 3D skull. And the way we do that is we need to have our, sorry, I've got sugar absolutely everywhere. You need to make your icing. So to make the icing, what you need to do is it requires powdered sugar and more of that meringue powder and water. And you would mix those ingredients together. And again, it depends on how much you want. Like the first recipe, which I'm not going to share with you, required an entire bag of this. Well, unless you're going to be making like 10 sugar skulls, I would not use that much. So I'm going to give you half the recipe for that, which is 2/3 cup water, a half a cup of meringue powder, and 1 pound, which is half of this bag of the powdered sugar. We'll make it, and you combine all of those. and whip it for 9 minutes, and you're going to get something that's almost like an industrial strength product of icing. I mean, this stuff feels almost kind of like, I don't know, has unique texture to it, but this is called the royal icing. And I don't know if this will make you salivate when you see this being made. So it's nothing like a buttercream or cream cheese icing. Believe me, it doesn't smell that good. So anyway, we're going to take just what you're going to do is, how many colors do you want to decorate? So, and how many decorating tools do you have? You need to ask yourself that to plan ahead. So in this case, I already have 5 colors pre-made, and I'm going to go ahead and prepare 3 different colors. So I'm not taking a ton of it, and I'm going to put these in my cups. But definitely, like, eyeball it to see if you're going to, equally distribute it based upon the colors that you want, including white. You might want white for some highlighting of colors. And the other thing is this, I guess it's a lesson learned for me. I made this earlier today. It's already drying out a bit, so you kind of have to work fast with this. So just be ready to go. Okay, so this is going to be our white. This one, I think a real common color is that you're going to need to decorate is black. So if you have gel food coloring, that is great. Otherwise, try to get the most highly concentrated food colorings you can get. Black, let's see, we're doing black. It's going to turn gray as I start mixing this. So, I mean, you're going to need a lot of black food coloring to do this correctly. And another tip is if you let it sit, actually, that's actually turning really black. Nice. I don't know if you can see that. Cool. I guess I put a lot of food coloring in there. So you're going to get this beautiful black. And then the other one, and unfortunately I got a black spot on the back of my skull, so I'll have to do something with that. I have to decorate that somehow. I'm going to do a sunset yellow. And so I don't know, you're going to just have to keep adding the amount of food coloring until you get the color you want, because I don't really have the measurements for you on that. Let's see. So that's kind of looking like an orange. I'm going to mix that really well. I put so much food coloring in the black one, it's almost runny, so I've got to add some more white in there. There we go, that thickened it up. Okay. So I don't know how many of you out there have used pastry bags to decorate cakes. I admit that was not something that I'd really ever ventured into. So this was kind of a new world for me, and I had to get some of the equipment, but now I'm really happy that I learned this, and I hope that you'll experiment with it too, to be able to decorate any kind of pastry in the future by learning just the simple things of using pastry bags and all the different tips that are available that you can get. When you decorate your sugar skulls, do not use the writing gel that you can find in the grocery stores. That will not last, and it will spread all over the place. And you won't get the definitions, this, I feel like I could almost cut myself on some of these flowers, and the points are that strong and that hardened. So that's just another tip. I'm sorry, this thing keeps coming up. Okay. We're going to start the pastry bags, and you're going to need some equipment. So if you want to do 6 colors, you're going to need at least 6 tips, and you are going to want to focus on the tip that has the circle for the writing and the outlining. And this one is a number 4. So when I did this, I have like 30 tips, but I only have like one of these. So it was kind of challenging to get the right equipment. The other thing is you're going to need these things called these couplers. And you can get these online or like at any kind of craft store with cake decorating items. But there are 2 pieces. And again, you'll need at least 6 of these if you want to do at least 6 colors. So I'm going to get the 3 out that I'm going to need for this. And I'm going to show you how you fill an icing bag. So there's these disposable icing bags, and you take the bottom part of the coupler and you put it inside your bag, your piping bag. And then you're going to want to cut off the tip of that right there. And then you find the tip that you want. And you put the tip on the top, and then you take the other part of the coupler, and then you're going to screw that on. Okay, so let me do that to prepare all 3 of these. Okay. So once again, you take the back of the coupler and insert it into the bag. And then cut the tip off, and then put the desired tip that you want, and then screw that on. And have kind of an idea of what designs you want to make. So like if you want to make roses, make sure you put the tip on with roses and fill it with the red if that's the color of rose you want. Because like the black one, this one will definitely be black. This is my tracing one. So just keep that in mind to pay attention to which tip you're adding to which bag. Now I'll do the very last one. Okay, so to fill the bags, you're going to want to roll the bag down. So it'll be able to accommodate the amount of icing that you are going to place in there. So I'm looking at what is my tip. And for this one, I want orange. And I'm just going to put that right inside the bag and kind of push it in there. And you can see, like, I'm not using a ton of icing. I'm only decorating 1, and then you push it down. And then as you go, you're going to want to twist the bag to have the product come out. So there's that one. And the black. So again, roll the bag down. Here we go. And we're going to squeeze that down and then twist it when I'm ready to use it. And the final one is just going to be white. Okay, there's the white, and we'll put that down. There we go. Okay, so I've got all these different colors that you can see. And like when I was reading about this, you know, they kept saying use only gel, but of course I didn't use gel, I used the liquid, and they turned out just fine. So we've got all these beautiful colors to decorate and all these different tips. And so you can plan ahead. What you're going to want to do is like have what I call like my practice plate, so I can see what the color looks like and what the design is. I'm just going to like put some designs on my plate, and these are drying. That's the other thing, is like, there we go. You kind of have to work fast with this stuff. I just washed all these out before this class and they're already drying. Huh, there we go. So you can just kind of like see what the design is going to look like and practice, and I would say pretty much immediately with how you want it to look. You can just kind of, and we know what the white one is going to look like. Okay, so I just practiced, you know, you can do like lines of frosting, just practice and see what you're going to come up with. And then it kind of is a good reminder of, you know, when you're planning your design, what you want to do. Okay, so the first thing was we need to construct the skull. So we need to, I'm going to use white for this, and it doesn't matter how fancy it is. But I'm just going to glue the back of this with the white frosting. There we go, like that. And then I was trying to think of a way to decorate this. And so what I came up with is take a cup and then put like a washcloth over it, and then put your skull right on top of that, like that, and that will give you kind of the work surface you need to be able to decorate this. Sugar skulls, definitely do not refrigerate the icing. You can keep it if you need to use it later, like, you know, make sure you keep it in an airtight type container and it will last. But again, it does dry out faster than I want it to dry out. The sugar skulls are decorated with like colored foils. You can use sequins. You can use glitter. You can use like candy sprinkles. You can use all kinds of things, whatever really you want to imagine. And you can decide to decorate as much or as little of the surface area as you want. And like Eduardo said, you know, it's really remembering, you know, your lost children and your lost loved ones. So when I have been decorating these, I'm trying to think of, you know, someone I've lost and what they mean to me, and kind of like try to capture their persona. So this person is named Beth, and I'm going to put a little crown on her. So I just cut this out, this little crown, and I'm going to stick it onto my sugar skull with the white icing. I'm sorry, you're gonna only get to see this in reverse. But yeah, you just kind of, this icing is like glue, and I think the foil looks really nice on these. There we go. And a good thing to do is like to outline the eyes first. So we're going to put a little bit of black in there, and that also can serve as glue. You can see that. And since this person had green eyes, I'm going to put 2 green sequins. And you might want some tweezers. But as you can see, that it starts coming up live. And I think the icing, yeah, the outline of the icing just works well. You would probably want to outline the nose, and I'm going to do that in green. And I like, it's kind of sticky. I like putting a heart, an upside down heart, as the nose. You can see that coming together, just like that. And then I know she would hate it if she had a black mouth, so I'm going to give her some lipstick. And again, like, you can be as creative as you want. There you go. Everyone see that? Okay. And then what I'm going to do is, like, I just envision her with like this big mane of flowers. So I'm just going to like try to make flowers, and hopefully it'll stick. I'm just going to make flowers all over her hair. And I would really recommend practicing on your plate before you go full score on this. As you can see, they don't take an enormous amount of time. Throw some yellow in there. Ah, that one just came right off. Ah. This one's just a mess. You can see like you've got the crown there, and then you can put, you know, if you want greenery or however you want it to look. Just channel your inner Bob Ross. You can do whatever you want. So there's kind of my skull, which I think makes me think of her, and she always would wear a necklace. So I'm going to put like some little beads, make it look like a necklace. And she's going to want some earrings. So there you go. That's going to be the sugar skull. And when it's a little bit hard to write, but when it dries, I might put her name on the back. And that's going to be my sugar skull. And that's kind of our demonstration today. Trying to think what else. Yeah, that's you know, you could put glitter in the crown if you wanted to. But yeah, definitely let this dry. And then, you know, you can always go back and do touch-ups as well. But that is how you make your, put it right there. That is how you make your sugar skull. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Kathy, it doesn't look like there are any questions. Very nice demonstration. Very nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just want.
I do this.
Pardon me?
I think I'm going to try this.
Nice. I mean, I just don't, they're not, you know, at first I'm like, oh my goodness, this looks so intimidating. I mean, they're really, really easy. I think the icing is the challenging part, but it's also the most fun. So it's really just working fast with that icing and just having everything ready to go. And then you really, like, I had these out for Halloween last night, and it was just so nice to see them, and they really mean something when you, again, are decorating in, you know, as a reminder of your loved one. So I just wanted to offer that there.
Kathy, I'm wondering, could you give us the recipe for the icing again?
Yes, I'm going to send that out along with some of my tips.
Oh, good.
Yes, so look for that either this afternoon or tomorrow. I'll send it to all who registered, and yeah, and I hope that works out for you all.
Great.
Where did you get the molds?
The molds I just got online. I think I got them on Amazon, and you really just need one, because at first I thought, oh, I have to let them dry in the mold. No, you just really need one. You could just keep making them and making them and making them.
Thank you.
Yeah, and again, like, I haven't made large quantities because I haven't needed to, so you might want to experiment like how fast this stuff is going to dry. So I would start off small.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, whatever?
I have a quick question. How do you store these? You said that they last for a long time. How do you store them?
I would store them as though they're very delicate items. I've been storing mine in a box.
They don't draw ants or anything?
I haven't noticed that, but again, I haven't had them forever. I know, again, like my mother had these sugar Easter bunnies, and we've kept them for years. They always come out in the Easter decorations.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks again, Kathy. That was wonderful.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks
Okay.
everyone for attending.
Okay, take care, everyone. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.